seconds.
We're opening on that camera.
10,
On this one?
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Astrology Numerology Now, a special edition. I'm your host, Z Starman, and this show is a part of the Masters of Astrology and Numerology, and I am pleased and so blessed to have as a guest on my show, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Ayesha Grice.
Thank you.
Now, in case you don't know Ayesha Grice, tell us about yourself, because you can tell it better than I can, Miss Leo. Well, first of all, tell us your sun, moon, and rising sign.
I'm a Leo with a moon in Libra and Libra rising, North Node in Libra.
A natural sweetheart, right?
Well, sometimes. You know, we all have our shadow side, don't we?
Yes, you do. Now, tell us about you. I've been looking forward to this interview since you
Really?
announced that you were going to be a part of Astrology Numerology Now. And in case you don't know, Ayesha has been the contributing editor of Essence Magazine.
Right.
When I was a little boy, growing up, and I used to read her columns and stuff
Serious.
like that.
Serious.
Tell us, how did you get started in astrology?
Well, I've always been interested in astrology and always interested in dream interpretation. That was a thing that happened at my house when I was growing up.
Dream interpretations.
Yes, every morning we would interpret dreams. And I thought everybody's household did that.
And where did you grow up at?
In Pittsburgh, and I was raised by my grandparents. And I used to always read the sun sign astrology column in the newspaper, and I got to know everybody, all of the family signs, and so I was always very interested in astrology. The other thing that piqued my interest was every Christmas they would talk about the Star of Bethlehem, and I was wondering, you know, well, those cats had to be astrologers, but you couldn't say that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They were the three kings. And then later I found out that actually King James changed the word from he changed it to king from magi, and magi means stargazer.
Now, let me ask you a question. Since you mentioned that, years ago, they used to have at the old Hayden Planetarium.
Yes.
Around about Christmas time, they had this sky
The
show called the
Star
Star of
of
Wonder.
Yes.
I saw it, the Star of Wonder.
Right.
And it's amazing how that they were astrologers.
Yes, they were. They were astrologers. They were looking at the stars, and it was a conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. And that's what, you know, let them know that there was a specific birth that they, you know, that
Now,
was going to take place.
Before we get into the meat of our interview, I would like to just touch on, how did you get started with writing back in the day? Because I was just like this tall when I was reading your columns.
You're making me feel so ancient. Oh yes, back in the day.
My mama reading my mama's Essence magazines back in the day with the afros and all that.
Actually, it was a result of an answer to a prayer, because I needed to stay home. You know, I'd had my last child, and I had said to my husband, I am not going to turn this child over to the institution, and we're going to have to do something. Okay, we're going to have to do something. I had to make some money in order to justify staying home and homeschooling. So I started praying and asking God to help me. How was I going to do this? I was going to homeschool this child and still, you know, kick into the kitty, you know, so to speak. And then just out of the blue, Susan Taylor called me and she says, you know, we want you to do a column for Essence. And I said, well, you know, I've never written for a magazine before. And she says, if you can speak, you can write.
How did Susan find out about you?
An editor had, you know, it's synchronistic, because this editor I had helped in the past, and she had my card in her drawer. So when Susan asked, you know, did anybody know an astrologer, and they really wanted a female Jertha Love had done it before.
Okay.
You know, and they wanted a female astrologer. This sister went right into her desk and handed her my card.
Okay.
So from that, you know, from me helping someone and not realizing what was going to ever come of that, just being a good sister to another sister.
Okay.
And it went like that.
Now, I know during our conversations and getting to know each other,
Right.
you speak fondly of astrologer Isabel Hickey, your teacher. Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about her?
Well, Isabel Hickey, I met her at New York University going to an NCGR meeting, which was not really a conference, which really was not welcoming. It was me and another brother, and we were like being treated like we were uninvited guests to the party, if you know what I mean.
Like, just in case for the viewing audience, NCGR, they're a founding body of astrologers.
Right.
But I would imagine back then, they were sort of kind of, what are people of color doing
Right,
here?
or still today. Well,
Yeah,
you know,
we're going to talk about that in the panel
racism is
discussion.
alive and well.
Okay.
But anyway, the brother that went with me wanted to leave, and I begged him to stay. And he said, well, you pick the next person, because we had been treated very badly throughout the whole thing, people not recognizing us. If you had your hand up, they would look the other way. And there was just all this stuff going on. So the brother was like, you know, like most brothers would, I'm out of here. I don't want to be around these people. And I was like, please, we paid for the whole day. At least let's stay. And so anyway, I picked Isabel Hickey, and I'm so glad, because it changed my entire life.
How so?
Because for one thing, she taught me about telling the truth. She taught me about
Telling the truth far
She
as-
stepped out on that stage and she said, where are my black brothers and sisters? And there was a pin, you could hear a pin drop. That's not what they were expecting to hear. And she says, we are in New York, aren't we? And then she lit into them and told them about the karma of what they did to the Native Americans and what they did to the Africans and what they did to Hiroshima. And she says, you have to understand that karma says sowing and reaping, as above, so below, as within, so without. What you send out, what you do to others will come back to you. She also said that the avatar for the new age was in a black body.
Okay.
And there was a brother walking across the floor, you know, with the garbage, trying to be quiet and everything. And she says that could be the avatar for the new age, but you wouldn't notice him because of your racism.
Wow.
Okay, so from that, I saw her courage in doing that. She could have said something that made people feel very comfortable. She didn't know that we were in the room because there were so many people. We were in the back, you know, but I got on the phone that night and called all the black astrologers and said, you got to check this woman out because she's telling the truth. The other thing that I learned from her is that nothing is written in stone, that it's not fatalistic, that we have free will and choice. And I also learned through her the meditation techniques, the absent healing, which we still do today.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you're famous for your work with youth, famous for your work with people who may not be able to afford an astrologer.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you did some work in prison projects and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But your work, what I love about your work, Ayesha, that it is so spiritual and it's
Thank you.
so Afrocentric. But you really call the spirits
Right.
into your work.
Right.
Could you tell us about that?
Well, for one thing, I always pray before. I prayed before coming here that my high
and you
self.
just prayed just before we went
Right,
on camera.
that my high self would reach your high self so that a message comes through for our own highest good and for the audience's highest good. Try to get my ego out of the way so that the real message comes through. That's very important. And I've worked with children and tried to teach them the same thing, how to use their spirit, how to not opt for violence, to dig inside of themselves, to use that special energy that we all have.
What would you say to them? Well, you're a Capricorn and you should be more
Oh,
an
it would
entrepreneur,
depend. It would depend. And everywhere
Well-
I go, they tell me the worst kids in the block, even where I'm living now, up in the woods, up in the
Okay.
mountains. My niece said to me, you know what? Everywhere you go, you seem to meet the worst, the lowest of the. And I'm like, who are you talking about? Oh, those kids that come and sit on my porch. They come and yes, they're interested in astrology. Young people are interested in
Yes, they
astrology.
are.
They should teach it in school. I did work in one school, Weston High, which was for dropouts. And this kids started coming back, me and Kanya Kakumba, who was my first teacher.
Right, from the Tree of
Yes,
Life.
we would, the kids loved it. We would just pick one child and do their chart and put it up on the board and explain to them how it worked. Then they got to be able to see themselves as unique individual expressions of the Creator, none other like them. And they're always interested. I've used astrology to stop people from robbing. My sister and I were walking around Times Square one time and stopped at a pizza parlor, and this young man could see that my wallet was open, and he came around, and I realized that I had done a dumb thing to draw him into me. First of all, we were taught to use the robe of light prayer.
Say that again?
The robe of light prayer
Could
for
you
protection.
tell us what that is?
Well, it's a simple prayer that puts up a vortex of protection around the person. Learned that from Isabel Hickey.
Okay.
And it's a simple prayer. I clothe myself with a robe of light composed of the love, power, and wisdom of God, not only for my own protection, but for all who see it and come in contact with it will be drawn to God and healed. So by the time that this young man came around, I had put the robe of light around me and I had put it around my sister, and it turned into a totally different kind of situation because the light was protecting me and he felt the light. So I ended up, even though he had a knife in his hand,
Really?
I ended up putting my hand on his heart and I said, "You need love." And he started crying and he started apologizing. And he put the knife away. He said, "I'm so sorry, miss." I said, "You need love." And I don't know what guided me to do that, but yes, we've taught many of the young people in Harlem who were, getting ready to go into the violence, and taught them how to use that light to protect themselves. And you can use it for purposes of changing, a situation. Like they
Okay.
were using it on teachers in
Okay.
school. And then the teacher would be suddenly removed, and every Friday there was a story about the success of them using the robe of light. So therefore, that group of children did not go into violence. You understand? And so we use that all the time. To me, you can't just do an astrology chart. You have to give people something else, something in addition to. Because me just telling you that you have Venus squaring the moon is not going, so what does that mean? How am I going to use that? So we could talk about maybe your relationship with your mother, which turned into how you relate to women in your life,
Okay.
whether there's enough love, or whether you need to forgive your mother for not giving you enough love. And, so then it goes into what we call metaphysics or healing. You can also look at a chart and see what's going on with a person as far as their health is concerned. And you can see tendencies of a person to be non-forgiving or judgmental and that kind of thing. So instead of just giving the actual planetary situations, you need to give them something else to hold on to and let them know that they can change it any time, that it's not written in stone. Some of the earlier astrologers, the European astrologers, came up with this fatalistic thing, so all of a sudden Saturn was a malefic. How can you look at a planet and say, you're into astronomy,
Right.
Can you remember the first time you looked through a telescope and saw Saturn? Oh, praise God. I was like going to church in the, we had access to the Columbia University's observatory. And they would always leave me last to look through the telescope because I would start jumping. I'm telling you, I'd be like, oh, look at Saturn, praise God, praise God. How could anybody say that that's malefic? Oh my God, And they would like leave Ayesha to last because, inevitably I would bump the thing and they would have to reset it. But there is no such thing as malefic. It's how you use it. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, we got a couple of minutes. Two things I'm going to ask you. Are there any extended astrologers? Well, I'm gonna say this for the panel discussion. This is your camera, Ayesha.
Oh,
I want you to look into it and just tell the world who you are, what you do. This is your camera.
Well, I'm Ayesha Grice, at least that's what they tell me. The mystic medicine woman. And I'm here to just help and serve other people using the tool of astrology and whatever prayers and blessings that I may have.
That's it?
That's it.
Any third generation, second generation astrologers in your family?
Right there. My grandson who's turning around, look, the Sagittarius, he's saying, why did they bring me here? Yes, and then my daughter sitting beside is also
Okay.
an astrologer.
Ayesha, we're just about out of time. We're going to have Ayesha back for roundtable discussion.
Okay.
Sister.
Yes. God bless you.
Blessings.
God bless you
Thank
for doing
you.
this.
Thank you. And I just want to show one thing. This is a beautiful gift that Ayesha gave me. Listen.
It's a rain stick.
It's a rain stick.
Yes. It brings down the blood pressure.
Okay, I need it. Ayesha, thank you. Thank you, sister.
You're welcome.
Ayesha Grice, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're clear? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. I think our caterers are here. You're welcome to.
You know what's so wild? My daughter.